Get that coffee ready. The Blackhawks and Golden Knights drop the puck at 9 p.m. We've got your pregame show next on the CHGO Blackhawks podcast. Welcome into the CHGO Blackhawks pregame show. Hawks and Golden Knights going to drop the puck in about 30 minutes out there in Sin City. I'm Jay Zawaski with Mario Tirabassi. Sarah's here with us. There's still people here for some reason. It's 8:30 at night and people are still working.
That's a fun place to be.
Yeah. We never stop here at CHGO. Thanks for being with us for the pregame show. We greatly appreciate that. Make sure you do us a favor and hit that like button for us. And subscribe to the YouTube page as well. A lot to get to in this one. We're going to preview the game. We're going to hear from Andrew Sorren. We're going to go over the lines. And I got a little scoopage tonight about the trade deadline. So I'm going to hold that little nugget for a few minutes.
Players are getting traded.
I'm told a player is almost certainly being traded.
Oh,
so we can hold on to that one and make you stick around to the very, very end.
Sounds good.
Not the very end. Just stay through Andrews and we'll tell you. Is that a fair exchange?
I think that's fair.
I think that's a fair exchange.
Yeah.
All right, let's get to it right away because now people want to hear my scoop. Here's Andrew Sorensen, courtesy of the Chicago Blackhawks.
Look like Peter in net.
Yes. Yeah.
And Reichel and Allen the scratches.
Right now, yep.
Yeah. What have you seen from Slaggert these last 3 games? It seems like it's been maybe a little bit rougher stretch for him.
The work ethic, that stuff is always there, right? The compete level, a couple of bobbled pucks here and there in the wrong areas maybe, but I think he makes up for a lot with his compete and his work though, right? He's kind of like his game style. He's been good on the PK, really effective there, so lots to like still.
The Hagel comparison's been mentioned a few times, including by you, and he said he's actually been watching Hagel for years, like even before all of this. What similarities do you see specifically between them?
I think what we just talked about, like the effort, the second effort, third effort even at times, right? And just, how he's able to stay on pucks all the time, right? And if there's a change in transition, his reaction is really quick both ways, to jump on defense, jump on offense.
Colton was saying that when he got set down before he came back up, he had to deal with the mental warfare of, as he put it, getting cut, just knowing that, it's kind of a hard pill to swallow. You've dealt with a lot of guys with that. How do you help them manage through that and relate to that?
Everybody's different. Everybody handles it differently, right? I think that's the first thing, and you got to get to know the player a little bit and what type of personality he has. I think that's part of it. And then I think just, realizing that a lot of times it's not a linear development curve for these guys, right? It's going to go up and down a little bit, and understanding that and kind of just making sure that you're improving where you are right now. If it's here or somewhere else in Rockford, for example, then you got to make sure you're improving every day here.
And have you witnessed that with him specifically with Colton, or how have you dealt with him specifically?
Yeah, I thought he looked good last game. I thought he, some of the things that we've asked him to do, he brought to the table, and so it was a good first step.
Rewatching the Utah game, what did you take away, and what do you find correctable?
First period, good. First half of the second, okay. I think a lot of it was our PK wore a lot of guys out. We had to kill a lot of penalties. Guys didn't get in a rhythm. The guys that weren't on the PK. So it was, guys are sitting too long stretches on the bench because of that. And then, then after that, we kind of just were on our heels in the third period a little bit.
With taking, moving Nazar off that top line, what do you, see from that group, and was there any specific reason you just didn't see them clicking there? Yeah,
I think Frankie's had a really good stretch in the AHL with Docker and Slags. And so we want to take a look at that, right? And Donald's been playing well with Bedsy here as well. So we didn't generate enough last game, so we want to try to spread it out.
I know you talked about wanting more stability in that first line, so it wasn't changing every game, and it feels like lately it has changed a lot of games, but also, something's not working, you don't want to stick to it. How have you kind of balanced that?
I think that is the balance, right? We've had stretches where they've been together for a little bit. If it was Bedsy with Bert and Frankie there for a little bit, and then it was him with Dono and Slag for a little bit. But I think the biggest thing is like you try to keep twosomes together a lot. So Bedsy's been playing with Bert a lot lately, or with Dono a lot lately, right? And then Frankie's been playing with Slags quite a bit, and now I know that in the past as well. And I think sometimes it's more so about putting 2 and 2 together and then adding a guy there.
And then you faced a lot of top teams recently. You got another one in Vegas. How do you manage that mentally with the group that this isn't too hard a hill to climb?
I think it's a good challenge, right? That's how we should look at it, right? It should be should look it right in the eye, and this is one of the top teams, and let's put our best foot forward here, right? I mean, that's life. You got to deal with the challenges, right? There's nothing to shy away from. Let's get right after it.
I like that mindset from Sorensen. I mean, that's how you should approach it. Say, hey,
Right.
You're up against a really good team. Let's go see what you can do. And we've seen, some of their wins. I would say actually the majority of their wins this year have come against playoff teams, better teams than you'd expect them to beat.
Yeah. There have been a number of games this year where they shouldn't have come away with wins, and they did. And then there's, on the flip side, games that you would think that they'd come away with a better result, and they don't. It's been a frustrating thing all season. But, yeah, hopefully this group can, pull things together for a good effort for the first time since coming back from the break, because we haven't seen that yet in the 3 games since they have come back. And, they're ripe to do it coming off of, the last game against Utah where they just got caved in. Even the 2-1 score doesn't tell you the story of the game. Like, there's a lot that they can improve on, and hopefully you see a little bit more in the old GAF meter.
That'd be good.
So
like a 2 instead of a 0.
That would be nice. Just a little bit more of that, and get your legs under you early and get ready to go.
Does Game Time have more or less than 90 shot attempts
Price
against?
Picks.
Price Picks, yeah, sorry.
The more than or less than? I don't know. I don't know what Mrazek's saves number is. I haven't looked at it yet, but I'd imagine it's probably pretty high.
Yeah.
And I might take the more than.
We'll see. Let's get to the lineup here. This is how the Hawks will line up against the Golden Knights. Bedard centering Bertuzzi and Donato. Foligno, Teravainen, Mikheyev, Nazar, Slaggert, and Doc.
I like that.
Kurashev, Maroon, and Smith. Me too. Martinez and Jones, Vlasic and Murphy, Del Mastro, and yep, he's back. TJ Brody with Peter Mrazek.
I'm back.
In goal. Top line. It had worked before. Donato's going to go out there and give you everything he's got. He's going to go win pucks. Tyler Bertuzzi's going to park himself in front of the net. Hopefully both those guys create some space for Bedard, because he's got to have a better game tonight. 2 games in a row where he's had 2 or fewer shot attempts in the game. That can't happen again. He's got to be a factor. So I like the way that line's built. I guess we're just never going to see Bertuzzi, Tavo, and Bedard. So stop wishing for it. But I do like the Slaggert, Nazar, Doc line a lot.
Yeah, that is something that gets me excited for tonight's game is seeing that trio play together. I think it's a good mixture of play styles. You got a guy that can play a power forward type of game in Colton Doc. You have speed and energy and forechecking guy in Landon Slaggert, and then you have Frank Nazar, who's a guy that can be a shooter, a facilitator, someone down the middle that can make things happen. So that'll be interesting to see how they deploy that line and what they can do, and hopefully it stays a trio for the entire game. That would be nice.
I would hope so. Yeah, and it's kind of a mini top line where you have
that's a Rockford top line.
Yeah, well, where you have Doc in the
Love that.
Bertuzzi role, and Slaggert in the Donato role, and Nazar in the Bedard role. That's fine. That's great. I get it. It makes sense.
Yeah,
I'm here for it. Look, I know I am beyond the point of getting frustrated about Brody, because apparently he's just going to play.
Yeah. This has been the case all season. It'll be, one good or okay performance, and then you get frustrated, and then finally it's like, okay, he'll sit down for a game, and you're like, oh yes, finally they see what we're all seeing in Brody, and then they're just like, no, he's back in the lineup, and then It's the same path.
I don't.
So it's something you can't control. So you just got to ride it out until season's over.
Well, look, if Seth Jones is traded by the deadline, that remains to be seen. Get ready for a lot of TJ Brody.
Yeah, Brody's going to play more.
He'll play the rest, or Martinez. Like, unless they can trade him, he's going to play the rest of the year. And I guess maybe you live with that if you're seeing Allen playing every night, and maybe Sam Renzel gets a chance, and
at the end of the year,
maybe Wyatt Kaiser comes back, and
Korchinski,
maybe, right? I can maybe live with that a little more.
I would much rather see those guys, any of those guys.
Me too.
I'd much rather see them.
100%.
But yeah, it's just the situation that they're in with him on the roster, and yeah, that's just what it's going to be.
Yeah. Hey, do us a favor if you're joining us here a little bit off the intro. Hit that like button for us. We'd appreciate that. Make sure you are subscribed to our YouTube page as well. One thing we want to clarify from the last show, our buddy Josh, who's here pretty much every show, says, was there confirmation on Rantanen? And because we retained, is it true we can't trade for him before July 1st? And Mario did the legwork on that one.
Yeah. So no, they cannot trade for him before July 1st. Got this from Mr. or Mrs. Puckpedia.
Senior or Senorita.
Yeah. I said, is a team that retains salary able to trade for a player that they retained on, i.e. Rantanen, traded to Chicago at the trade deadline before July 1st? And they said, nope, not for 1 year from the retention. And I believe there was a little bit more discussion on this about the with the expiration of the contract.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe even if with the contract expiring July 1st, it's still that they did retain on that player. So unless, I think the explanation was unless he's with Carolina, or if he stays with Carolina, then that carries over to that 1 year period.
So they can't trade for until the day the trade was made.
But if he signs elsewhere after being retained in the trade to Carolina, then I believe it circumvents that 1 year. But don't quote me on that either.
Okay, but they can't, if they want to sign him as a free agent, they can, though. July 1st.
Sign him as a free agent? Yeah, I believe that is okay
But
to
they
do.
will not have the ability to pre-acquire him.
I don't think they can acquire him. Right.
So I was wondering why this would be a rule, and Michael Evans says that's dumb. I kind of agree, but what I'm figuring out is it's probably to prevent like a loan situation where a team's like, we've got a crap ton of cap problems right now. How about we give you a guy for half the year, you retain half, and then we'll get him back for full. Like I just think that it's probably a rule to prevent circumvention and like, hey, we're going to give you a guy for a while and then we're going to give him to you later and all this sort of complication.
Yeah.
So,
I think it has to be as a free agency signing beyond July 1st or at or beyond July 1st. Can't be a, if Carolina is trying to get rid of him at the trade deadline, Chicago can't come back in and be like, oh, well, you're already on our books. Come on, play on our roster.
Right. And I wonder too, now knowing that, I assume that when Kyle Davidson retained salary on that trade, and I think everybody assumed that he was going to sign in Carolina.
I'm sure he understood the ruling
of
on
course.
That.
Yeah.
But I don't think he would have done that if it was just like, oh, that completely wipes out Mikko Rantanen from joining your team for a full year. I feel like he probably wouldn't have done that.
Right.
Because I think, would want the option this summer to be able to get him if he were to get to free agency.
That's a concern, though, because I wonder if you're going to have a situation where if Carolina's like, well, we can't work it out, and even if they do keep him for the playoff run, which would be smart, I think, someone will probably want to trade for those rights, and Carolina wants to say, look, like we gave up a lot to get this guy, and it was just a rental, so we've got to get something back if we're losing him.
Right.
And then you look like a sign and trade situation, which the Hawks would not be able to be part of.
Right, yeah.
Well, but maybe Mikko Rantanen may have told the Hawks, I'm not coming there. They might know that.
Right. I think
So
yeah, I think if there were whispers and murmurs that it was when he was leaving Colorado, it was you're either going to get traded to Carolina or Chicago, and he's take this for what you will. These were the whispers and murmurs, and he basically said, "Well, I'll go to Carolina, not Chicago," even though all those three teams, Carolina, Chicago, and Colorado, facilitated that deal. It was him ended up in Carolina.
It'll make sense for a guy who's in the middle of a contending season wanting to go do that.
If you're in your prime, you're up for a new deal, and you're going from playoff contender to bottom of the league or playoff contender. What's better for your career?
Right, exactly.
Playoff contender, obviously.
Yeah. The Hawks do have money, more than any of the contenders can spend, though. So if that's the motivation or one of the motivations for Rantanen, they've got a shot. Nico with a $2 super chat says, temperature check on Bedsy tonight. Does he get a point? I think Bedard gets a point tonight.
I hope he does.
I
hope that line can generate something, because Bertuzzi's been on a cold streak since he's been moved off of Bedard's line. Donato's had a career year, and leading up to the trade deadline probably would be good if he potted a few goals before March 7th. So playing him with Bedard gives him the best option to do that in all likelihood. And if Connor's out there and he can get it to a guy that's on a hot streak this whole season like Donato has been, that can be good. And getting assists is not bad. So as long as he's a factor in the game, as long as he's impacting the game positively, that's the baseline that you're looking for the rest of the season. And then things beyond that are all the positives. But just you can't go out there and be like a 0 across the board.
No, that would be bad.
It's got to be more than that.
Well, he's playing with Ryan Donato, and based on conversations I had earlier today, it sounds like those opportunities will be running out shortly. Ryan Donato is almost certainly going to be traded. Not a huge surprise, but spoke with a source today who used the quote "for sure" traded. Obviously, things can change. Maybe some discussions fall through. I mean, it makes sense. And I will add that this source added on their own, we need to get some NHL talent on this team. So maybe that's what they're hoping to get back for Ryan Donato. I don't know. I have no idea what Ryan Donato's value is. It's really, really hard to find a comp to Ryan Donato. A guy who's in his late 20s, who's like suddenly having this great year after moving from team to team to team to team, has never really solidified a role in the league either, has been bottom 6 most of the time, and has never solidified a spot. Now he's having this great year. Our team's saying, well, look, he's turned a corner now. Or are they saying, well, someone has to score in Chicago? I call it the Kyle Calder syndrome.
Right. Yeah.
That when Kyle Calder leaves Chicago, he no longer leads any team in scoring. Because
a couple of guys have had that syndrome the last few years.
Philip Kurish, I've had it last year.
Taylor Radish.
Yes.
Andreas Athanasiou.
Yes.
Max Domi. All not here anymore.
Yes.
Well, Athanasiou's in Rockford, but is he, I know the career year is not as staggering as it was for this player, but is he kind of like Ryan Hartman was a few seasons ago, where it was like, oh, now he's kind of quote unquote figured it out as a guy who was like bottom 6-ish.
Wasn't Hartman he was a first round pick?
Yeah, he was. Yeah.
Like Donato didn't have that kind of pedigree coming in, I don't think.
No, but but kind of like the figuring out it out or having a year like this at this stage of their career.
I think that is valid. Yes.
Yeah.
But they're different kind of players. I think guys look at Hartman as more of a hard-nosed power forward type, right or wrong. I mean, Donato is not an overwhelmingly huge guy. He's not quite as stocky as Hartman is.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I think
he plays that way.
Yeah, I think trying to gauge how you value a season like that at the trade deadline, and a player that on a contender is obviously not going to be top 6 like Donato has been in Chicago at times. But yeah, I mean, if I'm an acquiring team and I look at Ryan Donato based off of what my bottom 6 looks like, to me, he feels like the perfect kind of fourth line guy who is going to give you a really hard 12 minutes of hockey that's going to finish checks, isn't afraid to shoot. He's improved his skating. That's been a big thing this whole season.
And that could make a huge difference in the kind of player he is.
Yeah,
too.
and I think you got a guy that's scoring at a career pace. If you put him into a situation, he seems like a guy that for a contender is going to score a random, playoff OT winner or something like that. Like it feels like Ryan Donato is destined to have that kind of moment. For wherever he ends up.
Josh says, I feel like Donato is worth at most a late first and at worst a late second. I don't know. He says a podcast said that someone said he could get 5x5 in free agency. That would surprise me.
Oof,
if someone's going to give him $25 million,
yeah, that's an investment. But again, with the cap going up, a $5 million player going into next year and the years beyond is not the same as a $5 million player, 2 seasons ago or whatever, however you would gauge it. So, I mean, that's an investment in a guy, but I think if you believe that Ryan Donato is that player now, then yeah, you go for it. But yeah, I think on a contender, he's that like energy, like maybe comes up in the clutch fourth line guy that you can rely on night in and night out for the effort. But on a contender, like you're not expecting him to be the kind of guy he has been for the Blackhawks.
I think it was Lebowski5 said, what about Brad Lambert from the Winnipeg Jets?
As a return?
That would be great.
Sure.
Bigger center than what the Hawks have. 6'1", 21 years old. He was a 30th overall pick in 2022. I feel like that's aiming kind of high. Especially you got to remember too.
I'd rather a guy like that
100%
than like a late second round pick as the other comment.
Oh, all day. Yeah. But I wonder though, especially a team like Winnipeg who always has trouble drawing free agents.
Mm-hmm.
If they are a little more hesitant to trade their former first round picks because they've got to restock with guys they have that they have in the system. Now, if they trade for Donato and sign him, okay. Maybe that helps him, and he's not, like we said, overly expensive.
Mm-hmm.
But a first-round pick 2 years ago for Donato, if they get that back, I think you take that and run. That sounds great.
That would be great. A guy that you immediately can put into your NHL lineup as a young player.
Yeah.
I'd be for that. And if, by what your source was saying, it sounds like it's not necessarily going to be a Donato for a pick. It probably would be Donato for a
in fairness, they may be two separate thoughts, but
sure, yeah, that's true.
I think they are focused on adding some like how many third round picks can you have? Honestly.
Right, yeah.
And I know they can all be used to sweeten the pot to acquire players. Granted,
Absolutely.
Yes, of course they can do that. They can trade up and around with it. I understand the value of draft assets, but at some point you got to make the NHL team better. They've got to make the NHL team better. And it can't be, if there's one lesson learned from this season and last maybe two, is you got to stop with these stopgap veterans on 1-year deals. Because
I hope that we are beyond that point.
As soon as things go south, they just naturally check out because they're just waiting to get flipped.
Well, yeah, and it's hard. I feel like it's hard for those guys to really dig in to being part of what the team is trying to build, because like you said, like once this season went south and it was clear like, okay, the expectations this year are not going to be met, I imagine for some of these guys it's probably been hard to kind of like fully be dug in as like, yep, we're going to figure it out with the Blackhawks, rather than being like, okay, what other situation can I get to? Like, as much as they say like, oh no, I'm focused on being here. Like, we're all human. If you were expecting to be out the door in a few months of where, whatever job you're in, you wouldn't just flip a switch when that time came to be like, oh, what else is going on? Like, you'd be looking around already. So I don't know. I would hope that going through this off season and into next year, the guys that they bring in with trades or free agency or whatnot are players that it makes sense to invest at least a few years in, and or are these young guys that they've already kind of pegged as like, yes, we expect you to be part of the next wave of this organization.
Yeah. Did we get the super chat in, Sarah? We did.
That was the
Okay.
Bedard.
Oh,
comment.
right. All right, we should probably get some final thoughts on this game. I don't know. I'm going to choose to be optimistic because it's 9:00.
It's late.
I'm here. I'm full of Mountain Dew.
I've had a full day, and now this game is
I
happening.
had a Baja Blast and a half. I'm ready to go. I just,
Baja Blast.
what's the better? Might as well enjoy hockey while it's still here.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm hoping for a better effort tonight, and I think it's one of these, like we said at the beginning, like it's one of these top tier teams that somehow pulls a little bit more out of this Blackhawks group than nights when you're playing the Blue Jackets or you're playing the Predators or anything like that. So hopefully it's a spirited effort. Don't get run out of the building.
Right. I mean, it's sad that after the last game that's where we're at, is like, can you just show up and compete?
Right,
can you just put together a solid effort where you're not just getting curb stomped from puck drop to final horn?
Right.
Because I don't know. I think tonight's going to indicate, I want to say a lot. There's 24 games left, but like, what's the response to this?
Yeah.
What's the response to the Utah game?
You've had some tough games coming back from the break, and you haven't had a solid effort yet. So is this going to be another spinning your wheels and not really going anywhere kind of effort, or is this going to actually start, moving you forward going through these final 24, 23 games? We'll see.
I really hope so.
And what's interesting to get to at this point of the season, if you read the article that I think it was Mark Lazarus and Scott Powers did for The Athletic, where they asked players about like, how do you feel physically at this point of the year and mentally, how is it, drain on guys? And it's just a lot of interesting quotes in there. And one of them was from Matt Duchene, and like the way that he framed it was just like, you can't think of it as this, like, you have to show up and play hockey and get through a game. Frame it as like, you get to do that. You get to have your job be playing hockey. Like, I think at the baseline, you'd want to see these guys in this group be able to tap into that and at least be like, okay, this season's been rough. We're all hurting. Some of us are gone by next week. Like, let's at least buy into the fact that, hey, we get to keep doing this and we're playing a game for a living.
Well, it's a great point because there is often a comparison between the Blackhawks and the Sharks, and the Hawks have a better record than the Sharks, yet there's totally different vibes around both teams because the Sharks are at least having fun. They're out there enjoying the game, and like, I don't know, maybe part of it was the Hawks came into this year bringing in some veterans that they thought were going to make the team better, and they've fallen short, whereas the Sharks were expected to be terrible. They were expected to finish last or second to last or whatever it might be.
Right.
So, hey, you know what? We're going to lose. Everyone knows we're going to lose. Let's just go out and have fun doing it and make it entertaining and make it fun. It just feels like, especially lately, that there's just no fun around the Blackhawks at all. Like, I'm not just focusing on him, but like, even when Bedard scores, it's just kind of like shrug, fist bump. There's no celebration.
Down 5-1.
There's no, but it's just.
There's, I don't know if there's any, Joe Madden bringing in a live animal, zoo show or something like that can spark this team. But I really do, again, I kind of talked about it the last few days. I really do feel like those kinds of vibes in the room probably come along with getting more of the younger players in there and just getting a different energy in there.
No Roids asks, are we doing a live trade deadline show?
Yes.
Yes, we actually just worked this out yesterday. The deadline's at 2 Central. We're going to be on from 1 to 3.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a game that night.
Yeah.
So you're going to be getting a lot of us. And if a major trade happens before 1 o'clock, like if Seth Jones or Ryan Donato is traded at 9 a.m., we'll probably jump on and do an emergency pod too. So you're going to be sick of us
And
you already are, but you're going to be extra sick of us on Friday.
I'd imagine, if anything, it's an optional morning skate that day, if not no morning skate, just because it's the trade deadline.
Yeah.
I'll be shocked if they do a full one, but we'll see.
We will
It's
see.
going to be a long day. But
Yes.
yeah, we will be live.
But they're always our highest rated shows of the year. So, yeah, be there. We're not just going to be doing Hawks. We'll be covering all the trades as they come down. We'll be all over it. So don't miss that on Friday. And we want to remind you, if you've not taken advantage yet, our $48 for the $48 for the year of Die Hard membership ends tomorrow. So this is your last chance to take advantage of this deal. $48 for the year to become a diehard at allchgo.com. Why do you want to do that? Well, you get a free shirt or hat when you sign up, or $35 off a hoodie like I'm wearing right now. You get access to all of our great written content. I got a brand new Blackhawks beat dropping tomorrow. Mario's got the rebuild report always coming out. Anything that is diehard only, you'll have access to. You will also get access to our members only Discord, which gives you priority on Mailbag Monday, and 20% off all merch, all events, everything. So it really, especially for $48, you get the free shirt, you save on an event, and it's paid for.
Absolutely.
It's paid for. So just jump on that. $4 a month that equates to. We'd love to have you as part of our diehard program here. Scan that QR code on your screen or go to allchgo.com to become a diehard. We will talk to you as soon as the game ends tonight in Vegas on the CHGO Blackhawks podcast.
We all silly like the mayor.